Coming up on the CHGO Cubs Podcast, Cubs Convention recap. The Cubs finished second again for another free agent. D. Lee, Sammy Sosa going to the Cubs Hall of Fame. And the Cubs have new alternate uniforms that I have a lot of thoughts about. And to close the show, I got a mystery bag at the Cubs Convention. We'll open it just to end it just nicely to make y'all real happy and see if it was worth $25. All coming up next, CHGO Cubs. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast. On a Monday, it's 9 degrees, and Luke Stuckmeyer, he just had to go back to Mexico. Of course he did. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Cody Delmendo, Jared Wyllys, back in studio for the first time in a while, and my guy, Patrick Norton, who does many, many things here at CHGO. He's going to vacuum. Oh, he took down the Christmas tree once.
I did. Yeah.
Yes.
I was here. I saw him decorating the Christmas tree.
Yes.
So decorated it,
week.
took it down.
Yeah, man of many
respectable.
talents.
Yeah.
Man of many talents. All right, so, Luke will be back tomorrow. But, again, we can just act like he went to Mexico because, I mean, it is freezing outside right now.
Wouldn't blame him if he did.
Yeah, right. So, welcome in. Hit that like button. Subscribe to CHGO Sports. Would appreciate your support. Speaking of support, I want to give a few shout-outs before we really dive in. I was at the Cubs Convention Friday and Saturday. Got to give out a few shout-outs to people who came up to me or that I just know in general that I see all the time there. Sean Caselli, who hangs out with us at Friday 120 Club. He actually gave me the idea, like I said in the cold open. We'll open up the mystery bag at the end of the show. That was his idea given to me that I should do, so we're going to do that. Nate Reese. Another guy who I forgot his name, but I remember him saying he was a FedEx truck driver. Alex, Kyle, the setup man, and Matt and Sam from Locked On. There were so many other people, but these were the people that in the time of putting this all in my computer, they were in the top of my head. So y'all made an impact on my weekend. Credit to all of you.
Positive impact?
Positive impact. Just
okay.
Good conversations. Cubs fans who were excited about the season.
Clarified, yeah.
Or, frustrated with the offseason. Just a lot of everything. But I always emphasize this. Like, we can't do what we do without all these people who either watch or, the last few people I mentioned, they're like other Cubs content creators. It's always great to meet other Cubs talkers, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And, we're a community here. I'm not really trying to compete with anyone. Like, we're just here to talk Cubs and have a good time. You're probably right, Patrick, but that's just not how I am.
Sure.
But
it is nice to a lot of these people that you only interact or mostly interact with online. So it's always nice when you get a chance to see them, be with them, talk to them face to face. That's one of the things I always look forward to with the convention is, Friday night after all the stuff's over, everybody usually meets up at the bar, Lizzie McNeil's. And
yes.
There's people I've been seeing there every winter for 7-8 years now. And it's just always nice to get to do that. And I love any chance I get to meet like CHGO people, subscribers, diehards. It's one of my favorite things when, one of them comes up and says hello and tells me that they're a diehard. They read the stuff, they watch the podcasts. I love that. So, always enjoy those opportunities. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, again, I don't really know how else to really say it. Can't do what we do if we don't have you. And yeah, what were you going to say?
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
And really for the both of you. I've never been to a Cubs convention. I've never been to a fan convention of any sort. Pitch me going to the Cubs convention next year. So
I always tell people this because I get a lot of people who ask me, like, have I ever gone to Cubs convention? And I've been to 8 of the last 10. I tell people that they got to go at least once, especially if they are a dad, a parent. Take your kid who's somewhere between 4 and 8 years old if they've never been and if you've never been, and it's a great family experience. It really is. Outside of all the long lines, you still get you're more likely to get to meet some players that your child will remember for the rest of their life, and it'll even be a cool moment for you as a parent. I think as a parent
too, I would assume. So.
As a parent, you should absolutely go. As a fan, for like you, Patrick, I would just say like I just think it's cool to go to the panels, listen to people talk, and then it's like before I started doing this show, I would go because it was like my own little weekend getaway as like a Cubs fan. You just go, you will undoubtedly spend way too much money the first time you go because they just put all these things out there for you to see. But
well, it's a great example for you of like your job not feeling like a job.
Yes.
And this is one of those moments.
Yeah.
You're talking to Jason Hamill. You're interviewing people. There's a microphone present and a camera present, but you'd be having this conversation if those things weren't there either.
I think if you're a big autograph person too, like
it's
a lot of people will just buy a ball and then get it signed by all the people that they meet at the convention.
Yeah. And it's one of the only times that you can meet current players as well as guys from years past. I mean, I don't know, other than if you show up at Wrigley on the right day when, you know, some former players are there. Other than that, this is really the time when you could, you know, you're just as likely to get Nico Horner's autograph as you are Derrek Lee's, or, you know, Billy Williams is there on Friday night. You know, I can't think of any other environment where you get that. So yeah, if you've never been, it's a cool opportunity on that front. And kind of like I was saying earlier, I think if you're a fan, it's also a really great place to just be around other fans of your team, because going to a game is cool. You get that experience, but just to like hang out. And I feel like there's a lot of people who are, you know, they'll start reminiscing about past Cubs teams or Cubs seasons, that sort of stuff. It's great for that. But I agree with Cody. Like if you have kids, or when you have kids, bring them there, because they will get a chance to experience a baseball team in a way that they don't really anywhere else. I mean, I saw Saturday at one point, there's, backyard baseball? Is that the game? So, I mean, there were kids sitting alongside current Cubs players playing this game right next to them. Like Tyson Miller was over there. Michael Busch was there at one point. I think Rob Zastrisny was there. And that's another thing that, like, when else is your kid going to get to do that? It's pretty cool.
Yeah. We got a super chat in here from the obviously real Carter Hawkins. It says, Cubs nonprofit charity, can I write off tickets?
Yeah. Yikes.
All right.
Well,
all right.
I hope everyone had a good time at convention.
I think this is a good
Including
little.
Carter.
Is this a good segue into the top of the show here? Tanner,
You tell us.
Let's get into it.
Tanner Scott headed to the Dodgers. Water is wet. Like, let's set the table here. All right, Friday, the Cubs convention. I saw a tweet from Sylvie, and it was, I think Jesse Rogers quote tweeted it, or so. It was related to ESPN 1000, where Jesse said that the Cubs were going after a top tier, high leverage reliever in the back of the bullpen. And as if you've watched this show over the course of time, you know that I've never believed that the Cubs are ever going to do this. Like, pay someone big money to be the closer. Never believed it, because they've never done it. Craig Kimbrell's the only one, and honestly, the only reason it happened is because Julian Zobrist is a terrible person. All right.
And the Kimbrell circumstances were a little different too, because he was one of those that went until June or July before he was signed. So yeah.
But so that tweet comes out. Then later that night, I'm at Lizzie McNeil's with you, and Morosi tweets that the Cubs are in on Tanner Scott, right? Then we get to Sunday. The vibes are high from everything that's happened, and Tanner Scott goes to the Dodgers, 4 years, $72 million. I guess I never really got myself up for it, but I was also like really more so intrigued to see if they were going to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, that was my thing. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, smoke indicating that there was something like legit there. And as we found out since then, they offered 4 years, $66 million. And so they made what I would say is a legitimate offer. I mean, you can't the Dodgers outbid you by $6 million, and if I'm Tanner Scott, I'm going to take $6 more million and go play for the Dodgers. But I woke up Sunday morning kind of ready to, I might have to sit down and write a Tanner Scott story today, because it was looking like this is developing into something, and then almost, it's almost becoming farcical where it's, he goes to the Dodgers. The memes yesterday were fantastic of all the,
especially the same weekend Roki Sasaki decides to go to the Dodgers too.
Friday was Roki Sasaki, and then you get Tanner Scott on Sunday. It's just
Ben Johnson on Monday.
Ben Johnson's going to go to the Dodgers. Had a good laugh over that one yesterday, but so it was looking very much like they were going to do the thing that we haven't really seen them do, where they put big money on a closer. But if you want to point to one of the areas of the team where it's like they need something here, and even the guys from the front office over the weekend, they said the same thing. Craig Counsell said the same thing on Saturday. They know that they need to get that back end of the bullpen shored up, and here it was looking like they've got a chance to do that. Things were lining up nicely, and then, like I said, you can't. The Dodgers, it's $6 million. I mean, it's not that much in the grand scheme of things, but
what was the number in there too? I think it was like 21 deferred.
Yeah.
Well, that's the part too, that like when you get these guys agreeing to these deferred deals, and now the Dodgers can push all this money back.
Yeah.
That's tough. I guess I would say it's tough to compete with, but at the same time, there's nothing really stopping you from doing that. I know on Saturday morning during his panel, Jed Hoyer talked about how he did get into a little bit of like how the deferred stuff works, where it's you're kind of putting money into an account that then you have to use. But technicalities aside, there's no reason the Cubs can't do the same thing. And I think that's part of the frustration that fans have, and I think it's justified, is, okay, the Dodgers have figured this thing out and it's working, so can we do the same thing? Yeah, exactly.
Patrick, were you, I wouldn't necessarily say surprised, but did you have any actual hope?
It was only odd to me just because it felt like all of the momentum over the weekend was on the Cubs side.
Yeah.
And obviously the Dodgers, I feel like, are players in everybody right now, and that's fair. It all of the talk was, hey, the Cubs are in on Tanner Scott. I think when Morosi tweeted it, it was like, not good as gold, but it just was kind of a, all right, that's legitimate, good interest, whatever. And then to just have it twisted around like that on Sunday quickly, just, not even like a, hey, this is coming down to the wire between the Cubs and Dodgers. It was just, oh, by the way, the Dodgers got him.
Yeah. I guess what makes me mad is that it's once again the Dodgers. Like, that's what makes me most mad. Like, they just got Roki Sasaki, man. And don't get it twisted. Their bullpen is a big part of why they won the World Series, outside of their offense. But they didn't really have the starters going deep into games in the postseason. Their bullpen was already good going into at the end of last season. Now they add Roki Sasaki and Tanner Scott in the last 4 days
to go with what they already
what are they?
Yeah,
we could sit here and argue if this is good for baseball or not. At the end of the day, or we can sit here and argue all you want about if this is good for baseball or not. But at the end of the day, I still wish the Cubs were the ones being this. So I can't hate too much. I'm just very, very mad that the Dodgers keep getting everyone.
Jared hit the nail on the head too, because it's not only about the money. You also have to think about the fact you're going to play for the Dodgers. Yeah. And you have not only the prestige of playing for a storied franchise, you're also playing on a team that's almost a guarantee to win 110 games this year based on the talent on that roster, and then is coming off of a World Series championship and is destined to then probably either be right back in that series this year or at least get close to it.
Yeah, if you're a player who you are looking for a chance to be in the postseason and a chance to get a ring, what better team to sign with? Because on paper, at least going into the season, at least it sure looks like, I'm going to go play for the Dodgers because You got a pretty clear path in the NL West. It's tough to look around the National League as a whole and say there's a lot of teams that can truly compete with them going deep into the playoffs. And so, yeah, the money is great, but the nice cherry on top is I can play for what is arguably the strongest team in baseball.
Yeah, well, we can talk about what the next move is next after we do a few of these ads. Let me tell you about Chevy, though. Okay. Save on the new car for you and stick to your New Year's goals by shopping Ray's Resolution going on all month long at Ray Chevrolet and Fox Lake. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models with special New Year's prices. Right now, take 10 to 20% off MSRP on select new Chevy models or shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Visit our partner this January at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at RayChevrolet.com. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you've also heard of Ray's Price Promise. They're guaranteed to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about now, you can expect to see the very same when you shop Ray Chevy in store or online. Shop great prices on new Chevys with Ray's Resolution going on all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or RayChevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. 10% to 20% off MSRP on select new Chevy models. 125 vehicles priced under $20K.
Guys, I want to talk to you about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. I know last summer I took my boys to a Cubs game back in July. We had a blast, and we used Game Time to find our seats and get the best seats we could. And if you ask those guys, they're right over there off camera. They tell you that that was one of the highlights of their summer. So thank you, Game Time, for that. But if maybe, you want to make a last-minute trip down to the, college national championship, find yourself some tickets to see Notre Dame beat Ohio State or, maybe Ohio State beat Notre Dame, depending on your rooting interest. But I say go Notre Dame. You can even get tickets last minute through Game Time. They have curated deals to make it easier to find the best price on great seats. The super deal is the best value for any event that you're looking for. You can check the seat views before you buy. I love doing that. I like to know, what's my view of the game going to look like. There's always on-time ticket delivery. They guarantee the lowest price. And in the event that you need to, they have event cancellation protection. And you can customize your spot. So Game Time Picks, the curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and a whole host of other things. They have all-in pricing, so this feature shows the total upfront, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. I love that. The seat views are great because you get a full panoramic view of where you're going to be sitting. And that lowest price guarantee is there, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And with the Game Time ticket coverage, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
All right. So, RIP in peace to Tanner Scott, potentially being a Chicago Cub. So, what's next? I wrote down 4 names that I think most people are probably thinking about, and that's Kyle Finnegan, Kirby Yates, Kenley Jansen, Carlos Estevez. Those are like the 3 guys who close games on a consistent basis, or the 4 guys who close games on a consistent basis last season. as I always say, or as we always say here, man, like bullpens are so volatile. Like my biggest fear with signing Tanner Scott was that if it didn't go well, how much the organization was going to let that hinder them, you know? Now, I've been on Kirby Yates all offseason because I think it'd be like a 1 or 2 year deal tops.
Right.
And I feel like the baseball, like the under the hood numbers were good for him. And so I felt confident with him. He's older, but I felt like, okay, well, he's still showing that he's got it, right? But Tanner Scott was doing the same thing. Like, you can't deny that he was great these last 2 years. But my biggest fear with these with closers is just that, or just relievers in general, is that you just never really know. That's why I've always said that I would rather them find a way to develop their own closer, because you get so much value out of that. But I don't know if they have anyone that you can just slot in there. Like Porter Hodge was nice the last month and a half of the season, right? I think we all kind of like Ben Brown, but I don't know how the Cubs envision Ben Brown going into 2025. How many innings are they wanting him to pitch, right? In my opinion, he might need to start if they don't pick up another starter, which based off their comments this weekend, doesn't sound like they're going to go pick up another starter, you know? So, yeah, if they want to invest money in the reliever market, like, you're not going to have to pay any of these 4 guys $18 million AAV, but I don't know who I want. I would say Kirby Yates out of these 4, but I don't know. I really don't.
Well, I think talking to Carter Hawkins, Jed Hoyer over the weekend, they were pretty plain about the fact that their primary focus at this point in the offseason is on the bullpen. They talked quite a bit about that, both in their panel, but also when they spoke to media afterward. Separate from that, they were very clear about this is where we're devoting most of our attention. And Craig Counsell talked too about, like, his philosophy is, he calls them out-getters, because he thinks in terms of how many innings do I need to cover over the course of a game, over the course of a season, and getting the right combination of guys to get the outs that he's going to need. And so I think Counsell thinks less about having clearly defined roles and a little bit more about, I need to cover these innings, who are the right guys and the best people to do that when the time comes, which I know is sort of weird to think about, given that he had Josh Hader for how many years with the Milwaukee Brewers.
And Devin Williams for a couple years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the way he talks is that's the way he looks at it. And it could be a product of, he knows the Cubs organization operates a little differently on that front. They haven't, it's been a while since they've had like the clearly defined closer. And there are some guys that I think are intriguing options, but I agree with you. I think it's asking a lot to say, hey, Porter Hodge, we want you to go into spring training thinking of yourself as a potential closer. In my mind, I would never do that. I would just say, continue your development. There may be times when we ask you to pitch some high leverage innings, but we're not going to put that on you.
Right.
And so I would feel more comfortable if they would go out there and get, whether it's Kirby Yates or somebody like that, who you have a little more assurance is equipped for the role, who at least is going to buy you some time and opportunity for, maybe Porter Hodge does develop into that guy. Maybe Ben Brown does kind of transition into that role. We've seen it before. I mean, Albert Alzolay came up wanting to be a starter, and his role just changed. And it worked before injury and things like that kind of derailed things for him. But so there are guys that I think could do it. I think it's more a question of, is this the right time to put it on them? And I say, no, it's not. And for that reason, you need to be aggressive.
Sounds like you just need to do something.
Something, yes.
You also don't know what Ben Brown's going to be able to do this year physically.
Right.
That neck injury is a significant one, and one that's relatively rare for someone who's throwing 98 miles per hour. So how will he bounce back? And even if he does bounce back, what's the output that he can physically give you in 2025? And I don't know what that is. I don't think anyone knows what that is. I mean, some free agent help would be great. Carlos Estevez would be awesome. Charlie Sheen, mostly that's why. That's all I'm thinking about is is him walking out to Wild Thing playing on the PA.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Kyle
think
Finnegan was great last year, or not. I wouldn't say great, but he had numbers that backed up a solid season, even when he was struggling from time to time. Kirby Yates has incredible stuff, but is also kind of in the twilight of his career. So you never know. Hector Neris, we thought was going to kind of be the guy, and he was thrust into a role that he hadn't been in before.
Thank you.
And then and then the Cubs make him a closer, and he doesn't perform the way that he had performed in Houston and elsewhere. So it really kind of is a crapshoot from time to time.
I believe yesterday Estevez was linked to the Cubs shortly after the Scott news came out.
Yeah.
So maybe he's the guy the Cubs are
to counsel. We talked to Hotovy. We talked to some of the front office guys on Saturday. One of the things they all talked about, like, Tommy Hotovy told me this. He's like, the number of Zoom calls I've been on, just talking to different pitchers. I mean, they have, like, it's like you go fishing and you put out like 10 different lines. You know, just because this one doesn't work, you still have all these others. So yeah, Tanner Scott was like the big one you're going for, but it's not as if, oh shoot, we didn't get Tanner Scott, now we need to pivot to these other pitchers. They've already been working on that as this is happening. And I think that's good for, fans to keep in mind, like, this isn't now something they're going to try to pick this up. They've been working on it already. So you could see something happen quickly within days even, where they go out and they get that guy who they've been talking to all along, but maybe had to shift their focus slightly because this other person didn't work out.
Yeah, I guess if you want me to spin zone this whole Tanner Scott going to the Dodgers thing, like,
Kirby Yates to the Dodgers.
Shut up.
The next 24 hours.
I'm going to need you to not, okay? Is that they can get multiple relievers, I think. I think if they went and got Scott, I don't think they would have added another reliever. I think that they can now get 2 relievers if bench and bullpen is all they're looking to add. If Alex Bregman is the biggest light year dream of the rest of the offseason, unless things play out to where he ends up taking that short-term deal and the Cubs are part of it. Like, as much as I want them to go get another starting pitcher, based off what they're saying, doesn't sound like they're going to do that. So if bench and bullpen is your main focus the rest of the offseason, you can go get 2 relievers with how much money you have.
Well, I don't have the quote in front of me, but Jed Hoyer said that trading Bellinger was about reinvesting in other areas that could use it. So where is that reinvestment? We haven't seen it yet. Ideally, we will at some point.
Colin Ray and Caleb Thielbar.
Yeah, so like there's still time left in this offseason. We're still just shy of a month from what's today, the 20th. I think their first spring training game is a month from today. I think they play the Dodgers on February 20th. Yeah,
they start reporting. I think it's Super Bowl Sunday.
Great. Thank you, Sean. So there's still plenty of time in this offseason to kind of get these guys in the groove and in the clubhouse.
Yeah,
but we do need to see that reinvestment if you're going to say that that's what that was for.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to talk about Tom here in a little bit, but he did say publicly that he expects the Cubs to be near that luxury tax threshold going into opening day. So I think fans started to question here this last month, like, are they even going to do that? Mm-hmm. If Tom is openly saying that, then I guess I should expect that.
Yeah, and I think the questions came from the fact that we found out they went just slightly over, and we know that that's something they try to avoid, is going over that threshold. And so when we heard that they did this past year, I think that put a lot of concern in the fan base that, they may try to dial it back even more. But it's good that you point out the fact that Ricketts himself said that that's their plan. And so, if he's telling you that, then it's hard to imagine anything else happening on their front. So there's lots of time. And don't forget too, just because spring training starts, guys still sign. It takes into March in some cases. And so until the dust really settles by opening day, there's a lot that can happen.
Sure. All right, we're going to talk a lot more about the Cubs convention here in the second half of the show. So stick around. Let me tell you about Circus Sports. All right. Patrick over here, he is nervous about Notre Dame tonight.
Terrified.
He is absolutely shaken in his Air Force Ones over there. Okay.
Not quite, but sure.
But are they not Air Force Ones?
No.
Okay.
Continue.
But, maybe he can hedge his bets. Maybe he can just bet Ohio State no matter what. Either Notre Dame wins and he loses his bet and he's happy, or he can bet maybe he can bet Ohio State and Notre Dame wins. You know what I mean? Did I get that right? I think I confused myself. Anyway,
it's fine.
Whether it's pro or college, the app to bet football is Circus Sports Illinois. Circus Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circus Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game, Circus Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circusports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm probably gonna. I don't know who I want to take tonight, but I'm probably leaning Ohio State.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm probably gonna
you
take
know
Ohio
exactly
State.
who you want to take.
Do you bet based on your rooting interest, or do you bet based on like this is what I think's going to happen?
I'm betting based off what I think is going to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, I'm like in my head, I'm like, well, if Marcus Freeman wins the national championship, are the Bears going to go hire him? And I don't want them to do that. So maybe that's why I want Notre Dame to lose too.
Okay.
Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah.
I don't really have a dog in the fight here. We're talking from a pure betting perspective.
Right. I don't
there's a
really either,
reason-
but I've become a Notre Dame fan in the last like 2 weeks. So
Great. We accept you.
long time fan of the team.
Great. There's a reason why I'm wearing my 85 quarter zip today, in support of Cole Kmet and Notre Dame.
There you
Anyway, let's talk about Shady Rays. What's on my face right now? Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. I am one of them. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, because I'm reading this ad right now through these clear frames. That makes them the perfect choice for all outdoor activities and adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably have a style in your favorite team's colors. I'm looking at the website right now. They have Patriotic Tortoise in this exact same sunglasses that I'm wearing right now that are blue and red. Excuse me. I wear Shady Rays while I sit in the bleachers with Cody for the Friday 120 Club, and that way I could have seen Miles Mastroboni hit all of Cody's player props, which he's told me that he's not doing anymore. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses, even these XL frames like the ones that I have for my big head. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
You want to hear a story?
Yes.
Last season, I had my pair of Shady Rays up in the Wrigley Field press box, set them down next to my computer, finished up post-game. I'm packing up all my stuff. I left the Shady Rays behind.
Oh, no.
Get to my car. I realize what's happened. It's too late. The next day, I get there, and the Shady Rays are gone. Somebody,
One of those Shady Rays.
Someone got, my pair of Shady Rays, which, I'm happy for them to have. But you know what Shady Rays did when I reached out to them? They replaced them for free, sent me a brand new pair. So it's real. I can attest directly to the fact.
All I know is that they help me see better out in left field every summer. So
Tough thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we've been talking about closer, relievers, and whatever. I can't believe I waited this long to get to talking about Sammy Sosa and Derrek Lee going into the Cubs Hall of Fame. All right.
It was Sosa Palooza.
It was
this weekend.
And I'll give credit to Crawley and I forget his name, the card collector. Last name Thompson. I think his name's Bo.
That sounds right.
I feel really bad because the amount of times I've shook this guy's hand, I feel really bad right now. But
yeah, Bo Thompson.
Yeah. They were going wild in the front row. We're talking about guys older than me going absolutely nuts when Sammy Sosa came out with the American flag on the stage, and it was cinema. Okay,
it was. It was. He's a showman. And he knew what he was doing. It was great.
I was in the second row. Shout out to Greg Braggs because he lied to security and said that we had a seat when we didn't have a seat.
Why would you out him for that?
Because I think it's funny that we lied to security and ended up getting ourselves separate seats. I used to dream of times like this. I really did. Whenever he came out on the stage with the American flag after all these years, 21 years of not being with the Cubs, part of the Cubs family, whatever you want to call it. And did I expect them to put him in the Cubs Hall of Fame? I really didn't know what to expect because we haven't really got an idea of like what he told ownership to get them to welcome him back. It's all kind of just a middling ground. And so did I expect it? Not necessarily, but I obviously feel like he was deserving. He should have been in immediately. He should have been in last year,
right.
So all I'm going to say is that it was an incredible moment. And of the 8 out of 10 Cubs conventions that I've been to, including as working here and going and as a fan, this was probably my favorite one outside of the one going into the 2016 season. So,
I think there was an energy there that hasn't been there for a few years at least. I mean, I was there in 2017, right at 2 months after they'd won the World Series, and there was a lot of energy and excitement that year. But this just felt different. I mean, you could feel the anticipation during the opening ceremony on Friday night because everyone knew the moment was coming. Sammy was going to get introduced, but we didn't know. I don't think anyone knew that he was going to do the American flag thing, which maybe for younger fans it was September 27th, 2001. It was the first home game back at Wrigley after 9/11. Sammy ran out to right field with the American flag. It's this iconic moment. Look it up on YouTube if you've never seen it.
The amount of times I've seen it on my Twitter timeline.
It's this amazing thing. But what I saw during the course of the weekend with him too was this was a guy who could not have been happier to be there. For as much as the fans were loving to see him there, every time I saw Sammy, the guy was overjoyed. And it wasn't a show. I mean, we saw him in the back hallway behind the ballroom, just walking through there on his way to a panel. And he's high-fiving all of us while we stand there waiting to interview somebody. I mean, the guy was in a good mood the whole time. I'm sure, most people watching saw the video where he teaches the young fan how to do the Sammy hop. I mean, there's so many moments like that just from the 2-3 days of the convention that it just felt like, it seems like a shame that it's taken this long for this to happen, but we're glad that it did because he's absolutely deserving. He is such an important part of Cubs history. And, just the legacy of this franchise he's a huge, huge piece of that. And as somebody who was in junior high school for most of his playing career, he's a big part of, my baseball fandom is Sammy Sosa, especially that 98 season. I was 16 years old. I was in high school. I mean, that was an incredible summer to follow that whole home run chase. So I have to admit to kind of feeling a little bit of an extra degree of excitement just because of that, because he was there.
Got any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, Sammy Sosa, I think it was my cousin Donald had drawn a picture on a poster board of Sammy, doing. I think it was his batting stance, the arms extended, everything. And that was I remember it was like in my aunt's like walk-in closet, nice closet space. And it was just on the back wall. And it was like, yeah, everyone in our family loved Sammy Sosa because he was the Cubs kind of growing up. And Derrek Lee, like I know that we'll talk about it, or I assume we will.
We will.
Like in that same breath, not the showman that Sammy was, but someone that you would model your swing after, someone that you would, run out to right field thinking that you were the one carrying the American flag, or doing whatever. And and just these Sammy and Derrek Lee are both players that we grew up thinking that's what we want to be.
Yeah, I think if I could take a moment that rivals when Sammy Sosa first came out with the American flag there on the stage and shook Tom Ricketts' hand and hugged him and then went around the stage again. The only other moment that I think rivals it, or maybe it even overtakes it, I'm sure the people who aren't happy about Sammy Sosa being back probably say that it's bigger, is when Ryan Sandberg came out during introductions on Friday. But my favorite part of it, other than the ovation because of what he's going through health-wise, is that after he acknowledges the crowd, he went and embraced Sammy Sosa.
Yeah.
It was a moment that I never thought I would see.
It's an important one.
Especially after when Sandberg gave his Hall of Fame speech, and there were some,
digs.
Yeah, some digs in Sammy's direction, or at least you could pretty easily read it that way. I thought the same thing when I saw them hugging. I don't know that I would have ever expected to see this happen.
It was, I don't know, man. Like, it was just something, what I watched on Friday was just something that I never thought that I would see, because as much as I sat here and did these rants these last 3 years about how he should be welcome back, at least should be able to, throw out a first pitch or something. The fact that they not only brought him back, they're going to put him in the Cubs Hall of Fame, and him and Ryan Sandberg have seemingly made up in a way. I mean, whether it's for show or not,
whether it was for the optics or not, it was an important optic.
It was yes. Yeah,
exactly. So I just think that was just a big moment of just for my own fandom.
I think everyone got their way. Everyone got what they kind of wanted to get out of this, and that was Sammy didn't admit to anything specifically. In fact, refuted a few things that had been out there. Tom Ricketts even said, I wasn't personally looking for an apology, but just more of an acknowledgement of kind of why his numbers were so big. And we kind of get that. We kind of don't, with Sammy not directly addressing his mistakes. But everyone kind of got their way, and now they can move past it. I think that was actually a way that Tom Ricketts put it, was it's in the past now. Now we're entering this new era of Sammy's home, Sammy's back. As long as there are no other hiccups along this, he's going to be in the Cubs Hall of Fame later this year. It's an important time for Cubs fans, and Sean, you're pointing at me.
Well, no, but hopefully he doesn't take steroids again. Hopefully from now to the Cubs Hall of Fame induction, there's no hiccups and he doesn't, start juicing.
He might want to fill out his suit a little more. Maybe he's gonna,
I think it's so weird that Ricketts, who wasn't the owner when Sammy was,
he was upset on behalf of the Chicago Tribune.
It's like your stepdad being mad at you. I don't have a stepdad, but it's what I would imagine. This guy that I wasn't even playing for that came in here in 2011, 2012,
2009,
2009. He bought the team late 2009.
I don't even think Sammy's playing career was completely over. I don't understand why Tom Ricketts has to be the judge and jury of Sammy Sosa's Cubs career, when the reason that this franchise is as valuable as it is because of his Fruit Loops numbers, his Flintstone vitamin numbers. And I think it's just such a weird relationship that Tom kind of forced himself into. Just block out the noise, sell tickets, because people are going to go crazy for Sammy, whether he juiced or not. People do not care.
Well, and that's the part of it that I think he was too slow to recognize, is that, 20 years ago, fans were kind of up in arms a little bit about PEDs in the game and wanting to, like, hey, these guys shouldn't be juicing, stuff like that. But now 20 years later, the sentiment has shifted quite a bit. Most fans would say, just generally speaking, we understand that this happened. We understand that most players were doing it. It's that era of the game, and it's grand scheme of things. Do we care that much? Not really, because if you go back to the 80s or the 70s, they were using amphetamines. It was something different. And so, these guys juicing isn't like they've introduced some new concept into the sport. Guys have been looking for an edge since the sport began. So that I agree with Sean. I think it was a little odd that stance was taken and that it took as long as it did for something to happen. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that it did.
One of the funnier tweets that I'd seen was from this morning or from today, that someone had said, I don't know why Sammy doesn't just admit, to what he had done. And someone said, well, I think that if I had told the federal government under oath that I didn't do something and they couldn't prove that I had done that, I probably wouldn't say that I did that thing.
And he was asked directly and specifically, were the mistakes that you referred to in your statement, were those PEDs? I mean, that's exactly the way the question was asked. And his answer was no.
Yeah.
So whatever. It's I'm with Ricketts at this point. It's in the past.
Yeah.
We're glad to have him back.
He did, Tom did say that he never asked for a direct apology. He just wanted to feel some sort of acknowledgement that, something happened.
But if you're the San Francisco Giants, do you hold Barry Bonds to that standard? Do the Oakland A's or the Cardinals hold Mark McGwire to that? I don't know. Yeah.
Team that reaped the benefits.
Now,
right.
Well, I think Bonds just got retired this year by the Giants, so it's kind of in line with what San Francisco.
Just retired.
I think he just retired, and then I think the Giants then, to honor his retirement, retired his 25
his number. Okay.
Now, I do feel bad for Derrek Lee. He
got overshadowed a little bit. The poor guy.
He was so overshadowed. And D. Lee was one of my favorites growing up. I mean, this guy was the last Cub to hit 40 bombs for this team, right? 2005, Derrek Lee was built.
Tell me Brian LaHare didn't hit 40 home runs?
No, Brian LaHare didn't hit 40 home runs, brother. All right. 2005, Derrek Lee should have won MVP, but because the Cubs were bad and the Cardinals were good, he didn't. That's the reason that I'm convinced that he didn't. He had an insane year in 2005, but it's not even just one season. He was as consistent and as productive for the Cubs over the years, and he deserves as much credit to go in as anyone else too. So I do feel bad again that he was a little overshadowed, but I'm sure whenever they get to throw out that first pitch on the day that they go enshrined into the Cubs Hall of Fame, it'll be a big moment for both of them.
Yeah, and I think if there's anybody who personality-wise is just kind of built to not be bothered by this kind of thing, it's Derrek Lee, because he's such a, mellow, kind of low-key sort of guy. I saw just as much as everybody was excited about Sammy, I saw little kids chasing Derrek Lee down the hallway asking for his autograph. So, I think he was getting some of that attention. But yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought, here Derrek Lee's getting this honor, but it did feel a little overshadowed by Sammy Sosa. But I think D. Lee's built to handle it. Yeah.
Well, and kind of what I brought up with Sammy of kids modeling their swing or modeling whatever they're doing after those guys. Derrek Lee in particular is why I played first base growing up. And it's why I batted with my arms raised a little bit like that. Not as exaggerated. There's a microphone in my way. Not Craig Counsell. But, it was like the leg back, the open stance, all that stuff. And then if that wasn't working, if you were in a slump, you'd switch to a Aramis Ramirez. You watch these guys on TV every day during the summer. It's impossible to not think of them almost like as your personal coach. Because they're not giving you the direct advice, but they're the ones who you're modeling your game. You're playing that position because of them. You want to hit. You want to be a doubles machine like Derrek Lee, and that was such a crucial part of growing up and playing baseball. But to see that honor then now, it's one of those things where it's like I hope I'm in the building for that day.
Yeah.
Whenever, it was Tom, D. Lee, and Sammy like on stage after it was announced, like it was an incredible moment. I think a lot of it was obviously it was just because Sammy was there, but D. Lee was a fan favorite, and he I felt like his comments to you and all that, like he's someone that I feel like a lot of fans sometimes forget, and that's crazy to say, but he had a great career with the Cubs, and it could have been better if maybe Rafael Furcal and him don't collide or whatever in Los Angeles that one year.
Yeah, and there's you look back on some of the more fun Cubs seasons to follow. There's 05 just for his individual performance, but also that 2007 team, the 2008 team. Yes, their playoff runs were really, really short because they got swept in the first round both years, but especially the 08 season, during that season, it was a lot of fun, and he's a major part of that. So in Cubs history, you look back on some of the more fun seasons to follow, he's a big part of that.
Godfather, I see your comment. This is Mumble Jumble. Ricketts loves to hear. What are you talking about, brother? We just talked about how they missed out on Tanner Scott for 30 minutes, the first 30 minutes of the show. Man. I'm just saying, like, keep it real.
1:30, not 2:00.
Keep it real with us, okay? Don't talk about other teams signing.
You can take the good with the bad. Not everything has to be bad. There's some things that are frustrating.
I am using
the Cubs got Matt Boyd.
I know, they're back.
Hello.
Matt Boyd.
He's complaining that they got every good free agent. Other teams got every good. The Cubs got Matt Boyd, guys.
Thank you, Sean. I was going to use Godfather's comment, though, to go into this last 10 minutes.
Also, disrespect to Caleb Fieldbar.
And Colin Ray.
And Colin Ray.
I'm using Godfather as a segue here. So probably the biggest negative from the weekend is that Tom Ricketts talked. As much as I enjoy that Tom Ricketts talked because unlike any other owner in this city, he at least shows his face. All right, it's very low bar in this city. Very low bar, but at least he shows his face. And I do see him a lot at Wrigley Field. He does not hide from the fans.
He's there quite a bit.
I will always give Tom credit for that. That said, this quote that he said to 670 to score on Saturday made me want to throw up, and I consider jumping into the lake. So here we go. This is Tom Ricketts on spending to 670 score. The business model in baseball, it's worked pretty well for a long time, but there's a few things right now that are just a little out of kilter. Obviously, the Dodgers have a lot more resources naturally from smart business moves they've made years ago. I don't begrudge them for any of that. Some teams just have outside resources that are funding their player moves and acquisitions, and that's really hard to compete with. I understand when fans say, how come you don't spend like that? Because they think somehow we have all these dollars that the Dodgers have or the Mets have or the Yankees have, and we just keep it, which isn't true at all. What happens is we try to break even every year, and that's about it. Listen, man.
There's probably a better way to say that.
Yeah. Like,
it's not the most controversial. It's not the most controversial point in the world, except for the way that he phrased it.
I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of complaining about ownership. I'm tired of complaining about not spending enough money, this and that. Listen, Tom, like, you can't buy a team for, what was it, $850 million or whatever in 2009, and now it's worth $4 billion, and then you sit here and tell us to our faces that you can't spend this? Is it because Marquee is not doing well? Is it just be? I guess in a way you are being real with us, but I'm also like I refuse to believe that you cannot at least hang around with the Yankees and the Mets. The Dodgers are doing insane things that even those teams aren't doing. But if you can't do what the Yankees or the Mets are doing, then I have no choice other than to sit here and laugh, because it really is laughable that you would say something like that.
Well, and what I wonder is, because like I said, there's probably a better way to say that, because is the point that he was trying to make is that my goal isn't to just profit off of this team. When he uses the phrase break even, does he mean I'm not using this team as a way to just line my pockets? You know, I am spending, and I'm not trying to defend him. I'm asking, like, is that the point that he was trying to make and just didn't do a particularly good job of it, or wasn't clear? But I think what he needs to understand a little better is a phrase like that sounds probably different than what I think he means. And I'm assuming I might be wrong about what his thinking was, but it sounds to me, or at least what I wonder is, you know, do you just mean to say, I'm not trying to make money off the team, we're just trying to break even? As in, like, if we're not making some huge profit personally off of the Cubs, then that's our goal, which is a different thing than how I think it came across. Mm-hmm. But the problem with Ricketts too is you need to also think about the time that you are saying this. When you were all in the hunt for Roki Sasaki, we find out you're one of the final teams. The Dodgers get him, and then there's a bunch of smoke about Tanner Scott, and the Dodgers get him, and a whole host of other people before that, where you have fans listening to you who are just in the middle of reacting to these things, and then you say something like that. That's why I go back to plan ahead a little bit, perhaps, how you're going to phrase something like that so that it's a little more clear what you mean, because otherwise it just feels like, you know, one of the biggest criticisms, or most common, is that you're cheap. And whether or not you actually are cheap, you make yourself sound cheap when you say something like that.
Especially a day, or he made these comments on Saturday, right?
Saturday, yeah.
It's a day after Jed was on, I think, Cap's Pod, and said that his biggest regret as GM was not keeping Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah.
And that would have been what, $9 million that they would have paid him, and then they go out and sign Jock Peterson right after for, I think, $3 million less. So it's like the difference of $3 million. Sure, I can't reach into my pockets and pull out a check for $3 million. I'm not in that position. But it's tough when you hear Jed make those comments one day and then the next day talk about breaking even.
Right. And, you know, he always references, like, when fans talk about him being cheap, always references, the reclamation project for Wrigley Field. Listen, we all know Wrigley Field needed the renovations. It absolutely did.
It was like binder twine and duct tape for a while there. Yeah.
Like it was, they needed it, no doubt. But fans don't want to hear that. Fans do not want to hear that. Fans want the team to win. Of all the goodwill they built up before 2016 and like post 2016 for those few years after, because they did spend money after 16.
Yeah,
I would say since the offseason going into the 2019 season, all ownership of this organization has done is just shoot themselves in the foot with comments, whether it's biblical losses, whether it's
wheelbarrows of cash
because of Marquee, or I remember last spring training, Tom said something along the lines about how expensive it is to keep Wrigley Field the way it is. And it's just like, come on, brother.
In a few years, you won't be booing the Marquee Network.
Yeah. Like, it's just, there's so many more things.
Yeah.
And we have to end the show here in a few minutes. But, like, it's like, yeah, like it's just a bad look. So before we get out of here, I got to remind y'all that we have the Die Hard program. All right. If you're not a diehard at this point, I mean,
what are you waiting
for, man? We have Jared's written content. We got the Discord. I'm sure the Discord was firing off about Tom the other day on Saturday.
There was a lot of conversation, and that's, I mean, for anybody considering the Die Hard program, I would highly recommend it based on, if nothing else, based on that, because the chance that we were talking at the beginning of the show about interacting with other fans, you have that private, like, channel to just talk with other Cubs fans, vent those frustrations, share those kinds of things. It's a really great community to see. So check it out.
Yeah, you have the Discord. We got 20% off merch and events. And listen, we're gonna have plenty of events this summer. I don't know what is in store, but I do know that we always do them. So it should be a lot of fun.
A lot of people in the chat asking about the Bears right now. A lot of diehard content about the Bears. Some of it written by me.
If you want to keep tabs on that coaching search, our Bears guys got you covered. So
ALLCHGO.com/coaching search.
Right. So, anyway, before we end, what were you gonna say, Sean?
Well, you got a super chat here.
We do have a super chat?
Sir Silent of the Fogs, $2 super chat. Thank you very much. Saying somebody call Nintendo because we need Kirby.
Hey,
I like
nice
that,
work.
Sir Silent
Nice
Fox.
work.
I believe he's a
Dodger
diehard as well. I believe he's a diehard.
Nintendo also just purchased by the Dodgers.
Nintendo signed with the Dodgers.
Yeah. So, there's so many things that Tom said. I just started listening to him going on David Kaplan's podcast, and the one thing that I love about Cap is he always like lathers people up, just like, gets them all comfortable. Like, I'd never seen Jed Hoyer so comfortable. I felt like Tom was the same way in the first 15 minutes of listening to that with Cap and Ryan McGuffey. So I'm looking forward to listening to the rest of that. There's so much more to talk about with Tom and his comments this weekend. We'll probably talk about it with Luke tomorrow, but I think that quote itself is just so frustrating as a fan. If you are a fan right now and you're not frustrated by that, then then I guess you're just blind or something like that. Is not what anyone wants to hear, man.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting here asking the Cubs to spend $500 million every year. I'm
That's
asking
what you said to
them,
me before the show started.
I did not, Patrick. I just want to be. I want them to not let the luxury tax tier always be this
Always dictate how they operate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like my fear about if they had signed Tanner Scott, if Tanner Scott stinks for the Dodgers, you think they're going to let that dictate how they're going to operate? Hell no. The Cubs let Jason Hayward's contract dictate how they are going to operate moving down the line.
It's true.
You know what I mean? That's why they don't go over the luxury tax, because they don't want to put themselves in a spot to where they have to think about how things are going to look in 2030. 5 years. Like, come on. You're the Cubs. I get it if you're the Royals.
Yeah.
I get it if you're the Guardians. Like, you are the one big market team in this division. I know it's like an exhausting conversation, an exhausting rant at this point. I understand it. People are probably rolling their eyes as I do this, right?
Oh yeah.
But it
doesn't make it untrue.
It doesn't make it untrue though. And I've been someone who, if you've been listening to the show for the last 3 years, I've tried to hold back and defend ownership, because I thought you going through this rebuild, you got to build up something and then go and invest. We are at a point where this team is like right there. You added the star, and half the fan base thinks you're not going to re-sign Kyle Tucker because of how you've been operating the last 6 years.
I think.
Like, can we get to that next tier? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think I don't want us to forget. We want to end on a happy note, right? So we've got this mystery bag. The people are dying to know what's in
Cody
it. I'm
put
dying
money
to know
directly
what's
in
it.
Ricketts' pockets with this mystery.
I did this rant.
Speaking of,
I did this rant, and then
I can't let you forget about the bag.
This was my $25 donation to the Kyle Tucker Fund.
Yeah,
okay.
it is.
All right. So you can buy this at Cubs Convention. It's $25. Sales guy Chris bought one.
You saw some other people opening these bags.
Yes.
So you were telling us before the show, what's some of the stuff that you saw people getting from these?
Sales guy Chris
Go.
got a Wrigleyville Javi Baez jersey.
It's pretty nice.
That's pretty sick. You know? So,
all right.
All right. Here we go.
There we go.
Irish.
What is this?
It's dirt.
It's dirt.
I do have a bag of Wrigley dirt at home.
What in the world is this?
I believe it.
That's a light up thing. You press
yeah.
a button and it spin.
Probably needs batteries.
Probably
There's
needs
not
batteries.
a chance.
There are batteries. Batteries not included.
Yeah. Batteries not included. That's how cheap Tom is right
That's
now.
on brand.
We got a thing.
Hey,
Cards,
some baseball cards.
2024 team. Oh, here we go.
Oh,
there we
batteries
go.
included.
This will get people real dizzy. How do you get to stop, Sean? Oh, that's how you do it.
Cody's gonna pass out.
So, Chicago is finalizing a deal to hire Ben Johnson.
Are you kidding?
That's
me?
happening right now.
Breaking news
Are you
from
kidding
Adam
me?
Schefter. Wow.
Kevin Cato.
I think Kevin Kaduk's telling you to end the show so we
Okay,
can
I'm
do a
ending
Bears
the show.
show.
But
Bears
also,
got Ben Johnson.
I got this T-shirt too. All right, and we got a hat.
and I have to go. I genuinely have to go.
We have to go. Thanks for checking out CHGO Cubs Podcast. Ben Johnson is a
Bears
Chicago
are back.
Bear.
Wow.
Bears are back. See ya tomorrow.
Bear down.
Bye.
Was that?
We all city like the mayor.